It's E3 2018 and we are here at the Bethesda booth and I'm joined by none other than Todd Howard.
Hi, welcome.
How's it going? How's the show been so far?
It just started, so we'll see how the day goes.
So you had a pretty interesting press conference. Let's start with that. The thing I want to ask about is, for the past few years, you've set this precedent of announcing a game and then releasing shortly after. This was quite different. You announced a bunch of games, 2 games specifically, with no release date and kind of just said they're in the works. Can you talk a little bit about the reasoning behind that and the thinking behind that? It's very unlike what you've been doing for the past couple of years.
Yeah, it was definitely different, and we went back and forth whether or not we wanted to do that because we still had, a lot of things that we were announcing and releasing right away, where it's the PS4 and Switch versions of Shelter, Blades is coming out right away, 76 is coming out in November. But we have a pretty good sync with our fans. And they kind of already know, like, they see kind of rumors and things, and we felt that it was just good to acknowledge it. And we've said before, we're doing Elder Scrolls 6 eventually, but this says it in a much louder way, and it puts an image to it and a tone to it, and we just felt that, this was the time to maybe go in that direction.
Right.
The only, potential negative is I don't know when we're going to be able to show people those games or talk about them again. So there might be a period that's a little weird where people don't hear about them, and maybe that makes them anxious in a new way, but we'll figure that out. I think it was still really great for us and the fans. It
kind of is a huge double-edged sword doing this, right? Because you know what people want. They want the next Elder Scrolls, they want to see, and now that you've asked, you've put it on the stage and said it's happening, it's going to be the thing that people focus on.
Perhaps, it's your first question, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's...
And perhaps to the detriment of other experiences, like do you foresee like, we're not going to be able to control, like give enough focus to any other of our games now that we've announced Elder Scrolls, or how do you kind of like deal with that anxiousness and the frustration that people might feel that guys not speaking about it in depth?
Well, I think part of it too is 76 is a very different Fallout game.
Right.
Where it has similarities, it's still different. And Blades is a different Elder Scrolls game.
Right.
You want to let people know that, hey, even though these are different than what we usually do, we are still going to do what we usually do. Right. Even though Starfield is new, it's single player, it's very next gen, does a lot of new things, but it's more what people would typically associate from us.
Right.
But we like to try new things while also really loving the more, I don't know how to phrase it, like classic style Bethesda Game Studios game.
Right. So like touching on Fallout 76, a lot of people are gonna, you have this new vision, you're coming at it from a new angle, but there's still people who, they know what they want from a Fallout game, even if you're presenting this new perspective on it. So for those people like me who, I like the idea of a multiplayer Fallout game, but I kind of still, there's a voice in my mind wondering if there, as someone who likes the classical Fallout experience, will I be catered to properly? So for someone who knows classic Fallout 3 for example onwards, will those people be able to get that kind of experience out of a multiplayer Fallout game like this?
Well, I can't answer that and say absolutely for every Fallout player, because there's so many things in a Fallout 3 or a 4 or New Vegas or the old ones. There's so many parts of those that to say this is what a Fallout fan likes.
Right.
I see all types. So the heavy NPC quest and dialogue system, like, it clearly doesn't have that. Watching a lot of people play it on a Twitch or a Mixer or whatever, the stuff they're doing a lot, which is exploring and leveling up and finding areas and finding stories, it has tons of that.
Right.
So if they're like that part of it and just doing that on their own, it's, it really tickles that. It is different, but it feels like when you sit down and play it, it feels like Fallout 3 or 4, but it has a little bit of a different loop because you run into other players. You don't know what they're going to do.
Right. And
And that to us, once we started doing it, is very, very exciting.
Right.
The other thing I'd say is, clearly we're fans of other franchises or things, and I understand some of the anxiety in terms of when there is a new entry, you don't want that to be a missed opportunity. Like, people like what they like. And so we kind of keep that in mind too, but as developers and creators, we like to try new things, and this is one of them.
So I guess for a lot of people, for you guys, it's a matter of Fallout 76 doesn't tell you a story, it's about you creating your own story.
There is a story.
Right.
There's a lot of, we want to let the players create story. That's what they already do in our games. That's what a lot of people like about our games. There definitely is a story in this game. What happened to the people outside after the bombs fell? Where are they?
Right.
What are the new threats in the world? How do you solve that? And our designers have done a really, really good job with it, and they've had put in a very tricky situation of how do we do the things we like to do, but all of the humans are real people.
In terms of missions and that kind of stuff, is it like you've got a finite number of main missions and then there are like repeatable stuff outside of that, or is it just like...
There's a through line, like there is a main quest line, and then there's like we use a host of side quests. Some of those are repeatable. There are events you can join in, those repeat. So that kind of structure is very similar to what we usually have outside of the events. An event will pop up in an area, and that's something where you get a prompt on the screen and then you can join it if you want. Like this event is going on.
So one of the things that people got a lot of excitement out of and questions is the nuclear element of it, where people can drop a nuclear bomb after they do the hard work.
Right.
So at the same time, you guys were saying that you don't want this to be a game where, you know, you lose progress because you die. How do you get nuked and retain progress? Like, what is the thing? How does that work?
First of all, when you die at all, you pick a place to respawn and you keep going. Death is already annoying enough. There's no loss of items, or it's loss of time.
What is the kind of like implication on the world of a nuclear bomb being dropped there? Like, is there a permanence to that then after that?
It is not permanent.
So is it
We're
like...
still messing with how long it lasts.
Right.
But if you take, and the other thing is the world's really big. So wherever you nuke, it kills everything in that area if they didn't leave.
Yeah.
So you could stay there and like, I want to get nuked.
Okay.
It damages everything being built, that was built. You can repair it. But the main thing is, it's fun, is it creates a high-level zone. So that area of the map now, as opposed to us saying, we've designed these high-level zones or raids, the players get to do it. And of the 6 regions, they act differently. If you nuke the Cranberry Bog, you're going to get very different creatures, flora and fauna in there. But you have to be high-level to really deal with the fallout of that area when that's going on.
Right. So the other big thing that you talked about was camp building. So there's some questions about that, and you mentioned that you can like build together. Can you talk a little bit more about how that works? Like, are you all building your own structures, and also how do you move that all your settlements and that kind of stuff between sessions and servers almost? But you guys talked about.
Well, basically, the main part of that is we let you build wherever you want. There's around key locations we don't let you build, so you're not messing with quests or things that we have there.
Right.
But again, the map is huge, so you get a pretty big space that you can claim and then build in. When you log off, that stuff goes away as well.
Okay.
Then when you log back in, we re-put it down.
Okay.
You can also move it because, people don't know where they want to build if they play the game a lot. So if you build it in one place, you can then go somewhere else and say, oh, I like this view, I'm going to move my camp, and then you can replace all the stuff. And there's a little bit of effort in that, but we let you blueprint. You can blueprint all of your structures and stuff and then put those down kind of as stamps and just re-put it down.
All right, cool. So moving on from Fallout 76, you announced Elder Scrolls Blades.
Yes.
And you described it as a pure Elder Scrolls experience. What does that mean to you? And for someone who may not be 100% familiar with Elder Scrolls, what does that mean to them?
Well, to us, we go back to, say, Arena, which is really a awesome but glorified dungeon hack.
Right.
So that Blades started there, and then you have full quests and a storyline and a hub. When you get those quests from the town, you either get a handcrafted dungeon or it will generate one, and then you play through that dungeon, and some of those dungeons are big outdoor areas.
Right.
So the one thing it doesn't have an open world. We may add that in the future, but it has very large levels. Some of them are large, some of them are smaller for quick run-throughs.
Okay. So one of the, not concerns, but obviously the Elder Scrolls is a very hardcore gaming franchise, and the fans of it usually follow wherever it is, so like a mobile game. And then they, hardcore gamers see the word free and they're like, uh-oh, what does this mean? Can you talk a bit about the monetization of the, Blades and how it impacts the experience of the game?
Well, we're still messing with that. There are a lot of angles now that we can touch with that, and we're taking the same approach as Fallout Shelter, which we took a very light monetization approach, and it monetized great. Right. So I think gamers reward that. They know when you're gouging them, or they want to reward you. They don't mind paying for value. And so we don't want to have timers in Blades where you can't keep playing. Right. So you're playing with some chess mechanics like Clash Royale, where you find a big boss chest and then You can use your gems to open it, or you might have to wait, but you can keep playing and still earn other rewards. Cosmetics are really good for that game, you know, to dress your character up, show it off in the arena. Some other kind of XP speed up. So we have a number of different vectors we're still looking at and figuring out where the right balance is, where we feel good about it, where we're providing value.
And you said that you want to bring this game to as many platforms as possible. Do you have a timeline for that? And what's kind of like your priority? How are you approaching what platforms to pick one? You even said VR at one point, right?
Yes.
Which is like, that is spreading, like that's Skyrim levels of like ubiquity for this game.
This will be more than that.
Oh really?
That's our goal.
Well,
the other thing is, because we made it for mobile, it can go on more devices automatically, right? It can go to VR mobile, it can go, whereas Skyrim is still a very, you know, it's made for a console or a PC. I could say yes, we have kind of a timeline, but it you know, things happen. I don't want to talk about it right now.
Is it kind of built in a way to be scalable, or will you have to make adjustments?
No, it's been built from the beginning. That's the other thing. We knew, hey, we're going to take this because we did it with Shelter,
right? And
we kind of got there and we said, well, from the beginning, let's architect Blades to do that. Right. And we, you know, it has all new mobile backend for us, so we can make that cross-platform play work.
Okay. It seems like more so than Shelter, Blades could like be kind of like the first stepping stone into
I think
a
so. It definitely is more what you would associate with us.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So the other game that you discussed, the big one, Starfield. It's been kind of floating around for a while. How does it feel to kind of get out there and just say, yes, it's a thing that we're working on?
It's weird. I actually have a hard time even saying the name. Like when I hear you say it, it's still a little weird. Because we have internal code names, and you get used to that for years of never saying the word Starfield.
What was the code name for Starfield?
I'm not going to tell you. So that's a little bit weird. I'm still getting used to it, to be honest.
Okay, cool. Yeah. That's interesting. How far along in development is it? Is it like playable now, or
there are sections of it that are very playable. We mess around for a while, and then we know like this is the game we're making, and we know that now. We know the game we're making. There's some specific design challenges that we know we'll have to deal with because we're doing some new things. But there are sections of it you can play, and it's one of the reasons we're, you know, hey, let's announce it, is it's looking awesome. So we're really confident, like, this is a game we're definitely doing. We have runway in front of us. We know what's happening.
Do you know if we're likely to see that soon, perhaps at QuakeCon or something like that?
Everyone should be very, very patient.
Okay, cool. You said that Bethesda is like uniquely positioned to pull this off. What does that mean? Like a lot of people are probably thinking, oh, it's going to be a classic sci-fi style RPG in the same vein of Fallout, The Elder Scrolls. But it seems like you want to. Do you want to go beyond that and explore different genres or styles of gaming? Is it doing that, or is it very much what people expect now?
It has what you expect and more. I would say that. I would say we have a team that's worked together for a very long time, done some very big games, done different kinds of systems. Some of those we can rely on, and then we can push further. We have a lot of experience in the studio, so we can be very, very ambitious and try some new things, and there's a level of confidence that we'll be able to execute.
How important is kind of exploring other genres to you as someone who's kind of got this kind of leadership role within Bethesda Game Studios? You have a lot of other teams that are kind of filling out the kind of catalog with shooters and other types of experiences, but you know, Bethesda Game Studios, it has kind of a trademark type of game.
Sure.
Do you like want to explore other genres beyond that? Not specifically for Starfield, but like, is there going to be a time when Bethesda Game Studios makes, you know, a kind of another tactics RPG, or like a music rhythm game?
That would surprise me. We like what we like, so the games that we have made are the ones that we want to play. We like big epic stuff. We like to find what, you know, Fallout Shelter is probably the most different outside of the range of what we do that we've done. Blades is even though it's a mobile game, is much closer to what we would usually do. 76 is close to what we do, but it has obviously new things. So I don't really know how to answer other than we are very similar to our fans, I think, in what we want to see out of games, and we're going to keep doing that while trying new things.
Cool. So one of the things that you mentioned, both for Starfield and also the next Elder Scrolls games, you mentioned the phrase next generation. there's been some little bit of confusion about whether you mean like a next generation engine that you're kind of working on, or next generation platforms. Can you provide like clarity on whether you say next generation? It's a bit of both. So, is it? If we assume that Starfield wouldn't be releasing on PS4, Xbox One, and would that be out of the question? Or I guess a lot of people.
Not out of the question.
Okay. So you're expecting
there is a question there.
Okay, cool. There is a
question. Put it that way.
There. Okay. Does that mean?
I'm being honest. I don't know the answer to that yet.
Okay. So you're trying to figure out whether.
I can't absolutely say yes to that.
Okay. I mean, like, it makes a lot of people will own these current consoles by the time Starfield is out, so it makes sense for you guys to also.
It does. It does. But we're not going to
limit the game that way. Okay. So if it's important for the game to kind of leave these consoles behind, you're willing to do that?
I wouldn't. I'm willing to, but it's not a priority right now. I put it that way. You know what I mean? Cool. When you're making a game, you want to get the best stuff on the screen, and then you optimize and you do things. And if it lands here, we can cast a wider net. Great. But if we can't, then we've done that before.
If we're to say that you're focusing on building both the next Elder Scrolls and Starfield for next generation platforms, does that mean those will be the only Bethesda Game Studios will see, Fallout 76 will be the only Bethesda Game Studios game we'll get until those? Or do you have are you thinking of other games that you're working on in between time?
That right now is our lineup, what we laid out. That's the order.
Okay, cool.
For like the major release. Right. 76, Starfield, Elder Scrolls 6.
Okay, cool. So Elder Scrolls 6, a lot of people will want to know exactly what stage it's at. I assume it's like a massive game, and
it's very early.
Very early.
Very early.
So
it's in the concept and design. This is what it is. This is where it will be. Here's some of the parts it'll have.
Okay, cool. Yeah. Do you have like a? Obviously, I was going to say, do you have a release date? Do you have a timeline? But like, in terms of,
I do. I would be foolish to say it.
I mean, if you want to, feel free. But like, in terms of vision, what do you want to bring new to it? What are you targeting? Because obviously, a lot of people have played Skyrim now. You've got a bigger audience than ever before. Like, how do you approach creating a new Elder Scrolls game for all those people?
I really don't want to. There'll be a time for that, but I would say Skyrim became such a huge thing for not just us.
Right.
It's one of the most popular games in the world.
Yeah.
And so we've obviously taken our time with it, as opposed to jumping right into it. We know what we want it to be, and that's going to take time, technology, other things that we need to build to really pull it off, and that's what that franchise deserves.
Have you considered going back and remastering all the games? I know there's a lot of Morrowind fans out there who will absolutely kill me if I don't say something about it.
We're actually more interested in working with platforms to have, Morrowind runs backwards compatible now. Yeah. So that's whereas I like remasters, I like the charm of the way it was.
Back then.
Personally, like when you watch an old movie.
Yeah.
And so I'm much more interested in how can we work with Microsoft, Sony, or PCs to make sure that game works well. That if you want to play it the way it was, you can install it and play it and all of that, as opposed to it's that same game, but it looks really, really different. That's just my own personal preference.
Okay. Final two questions. The first one, the internet is wondering that jacket that you wore during the thing. Did you buy that yourself? Did a stylist pick that out for you? Where did you get that jacket?
I bought it on Soul Revolver.
Soul Revolver.
Great site.
There you go. You've got a free plug for Soul Revolver. Finally, have you seen this video?
Ladies and gentlemen, he's the recipient of numerous Lifetime Achievement and Hall of Fame awards.
Did you make this?
Accolades and awards.
I didn't know.
Will you please welcome my very good friend, Mr. Todd Howard.
I don't know how to feel about this.
It's pretty good.
The internet is a great place.
How do you feel? Would you want me to send you that? I can send you that. It's pretty cool.
It's great.
Yeah, sweet. Todd,
I'll play that whenever I feel down. Having a bad day.
You look cool. You're wearing.
I'll load that up.
Your hair looks exceptional. You're in a great jacket. You've got perfect lighting, and like your brand new game is just superimposed over it, and it's the Who. Like, that is great. Like motivational
like a
video.
CSI episode.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, perfect. Todd, thank you for your time.
It was great.
It was great speaking to you.
Thanks for coming by. Have a great
show.